Welcome to Storytime here on Build-A-Bear Radio. I'm your host, Victoria, broadcasting from my home library to share these wonderful stories and grand adventures with you this summer. As a teacher of literature, I can tell you every story is better with a furry friend by your side. We have some exciting stories for you this week. This week, I'm very excited to tell you that our first guest is Lisa Moore Ramée, author of Something to Say. This is a wonderful book about a kid who thinks they don't fit in. Lisa, can you introduce yourself to our listeners, please?
Hi, I'm Lisa Moore Ramée, and I am the author of A Good Kind of Trouble and Something to Say. Something to Say is the book that I will be reading from today. I wrote this book because I wanted to talk about a person who doesn't quite fit in, a little bit of an oddball. And I wanted to write a story like that because I'm a little bit of an oddball. And who knows, maybe you are too. I wanted you to know that it's totally okay to be that way, and you should just stay the way you are. There's lots of other things included in the book, but you'll have to read it to find out. So here we go. I'm going to be reading chapters 1 and 2. You can get this book wherever books are sold, online or at your favorite indie bookstore or at Barnes & Noble. Chapter 1, Not Like Anyone Else. Mama gets home from work earlier than usual, and even though I shut my laptop quick and slide it under a couch cushion, it's too late. "Hi, Mama," I say innocently, raising my voice so she can hear me over my Grandpa G's blaring television. A rickety fan in the corner of the living room is blowing a steady breeze at me, but I'm still hot and my legs stick to the leather couch. Mama clanks her purse and keys down on the small table by the front door. "Oh, don't you even try it, Janae," she says and points at the cushion. "Move that before someone sits on it." Guiltily, I pull my computer out. Mama isn't a fan of my shiny silver laptop, mostly because my dad bought it. Anything that makes her think of him is never going to be good. She's always talking about what he should do or shouldn't do, but she never says it would be better if he came by more. I guess I'm the only one who thinks that. I try not to care too much. He's an actor and travels all over the place making movies, so he's really busy. And in interviews, he always says he has a daughter, so it's not as if he has forgotten about me. Mama walks over to G. "Hey, Daddy," she says, and gives him a kiss on the top of his head, and then reaches over, grabs the remote, and turns down the volume. "Hey, yourself," G says, not turning his head away from the old Western movie he's watching. As soon as Mama leaves the room, he'll crank the volume right back up. G's hearing isn't great, but he refuses to get hearing aids, so when he's home, we all have to suffer with the TV volume set to ear-piercing loud. Mama frowns at me, which is not so unusual. Sometimes when Mama looks at me, I can tell she does not like what she sees. She doesn't understand how her daughter could turn out so different from her. But I'm not like anyone, and I'm all right with that. Being unique should be a good thing, but the world is full of people like Mama who think fitting in is more important than being yourself. "I told your father buying you that thing was a bad idea," Mama says. "Just plain ridiculous, encouraging you. Do you not see me trying to watch my program?" G hollers, cutting off Mama and gesturing at the TV. "If y'all want to be chatty, get on out of here." Mama knows better than to argue with her father, so she raises her perfectly threaded eyebrows and beckons for me to follow her into the kitchen. She likes to complain that G still treats her like a baby, but it's his house, so he makes the rules. We live here because the house is huge, and with Nana June gone, he'd get lonely. My grandmother didn't die. She just decided she was tired of G, of all men actually, and moved to Florida to live with her best friend. She sends me neon t-shirts all the time that say things like, "Live your best life," and "Nothing's impossible." I don't think Nana June gets how hard it is to live your own life when you're only 11. People steady want to tell you what to do. Mama clicks across the hardwood floor in her high heels, and I peel myself off the couch. As soon as I get to the kitchen, she starts up. Your father gave you that computer so you could do your homework, not watch that foolishness. That foolishness is what Mama calls Astrid Dane, my favorite YouTube show. It's summer, Mama. I don't have any homework. I don't bother arguing that Astrid Dane is not foolishness because Mama has her mind made up about that. Mama likes real things, nothing make-believe. Astrid Dane is a 12-year-old immortal girl who has all sorts of ghosts living inside her, and they take over her personality sometimes, and that is just about as far from real as you can get, according to Mama. But I love Astrid Dane. Mama crosses her arms tight against her chest and stares at me. What exactly are you wearing? Her tone implies I am wearing my panties on my head. I look down at myself as if I don't remember what I have on. Just a vest I made? I can't help my voice going up at the end. Nana June taught me how to sew. I can't do a whole bunch, but a vest is pretty easy. And this one is great. It's an exact copy of what Astrid Dane wore in the corruption episode. I paid attention to every detail, even getting the elephant buttons right. Lord, girl, Mama stares, and I know nothing good is going to come after that. How are you going to have any friends if you walk around in crazy costumes? I don't answer. And not because I don't want friends, but I don't need them the way some people do, especially if what I wear is going to matter to them. Mama acts as if that means there's something wrong with me. The kitchen door gets pushed open, and my brother Malcolm crutches in. He's been on crutches since his surgery a few weeks ago. You really need to come home and start hollering like that? He asked Mama. Malcolm's not afraid to talk back to Mama like I am. Maybe because he's older, but probably even when I'm grown and not even living with Mama anymore, I'll still be scared to speak my mind. Mama puts her hands on her hips. How come you didn't start dinner? She asked Malcolm, and I feel guilty right away. Even though it's Malcolm's turn to cook, I should have done it, especially since his injury is all my fault. Chapter 2. A Plan. Mama glares at Malcolm. You can't just sit up in your room all day listening to music and not doing anything else, she says. Tonight is your turn. You know that. It's too hard, Malcolm says. Standing up that long hurts. He moves the leg with the big black brace out in front of him, as if Mama might have forgotten about his injury. Mama doesn't even look at Malcolm's leg. She just leans against the island and puts her hands on her hips. The doctors cleared you for regular activity. Seems to me if they said you could drive, you sure enough can stand up and cook some dinner. I've told you you need to help out here. I'm sure not going to just watch you turn out like these supposed to be men. She's dragging both Malcolm's dad and mine with that comment. Malcolm's dad is Mama's first husband, and mine is her second. After 2 marriages and 2 divorces, Mama has sworn off men forever. Maybe when your heart gets broken twice, it doesn't ever fit right back together. I'm not going to, Mama. Can you please give me a break? Malcolm asks. I'll give you a break when you explain your plan to me, Mama says. You got one yet? She's been asking Malcolm this question since his surgery. Malcolm shrugs. I don't know. He sounds so sad when he says it that I have to look away. Ever since he was my age, Malcolm had such a clear plan, a total slam dunk. But the best point guard in his high school league, get recruited by Division I college, get drafted into the NBA, make millions, and buy Mama a mansion. Mama always laughed at that part of Malcolm's plan and said she had no use for a house that big. But that was before he tore his ACL and meniscus and had to have surgery. That's not good enough, Malcolm, Mama says. I don't like when Mama gets on Malcolm's case, but if she knew I was the reason Malcolm was home with a busted up knee instead of still playing college basketball, she'd definitely go back to yelling at me. G always says, you break it, you buy it, which is his way of saying you have to take ownership of your mistakes and figure out a way to fix them. Since I'm the one who broke Malcolm, I have to make him better, but I sure don't know how. So far I've tried doing his chores, buying him sunflower seeds, and staying out of his way. None of that worked. Malcolm's not the only one who needs a plan. The assistant coach, Coach Nas, called me again, Mama says. He reminded me you still haven't registered for classes. You know they don't have to renew your scholarship. Malcolm mumbles something, and it sounds a whole lot like he said he didn't care, but I know that's not the truth. Mama stares at him, and her face is stone hard, but then it softens just a little. Malcolm, you need to care. This is your life. Basketball was only one ticket to the ride. Whether you can play or not, they're still willing to pay for school. You're going to let that opportunity slip away? You know how few black young men are even getting college degrees? When Malcolm doesn't answer, Mama throws up her hands in frustration. Well, one of you needs to get some dinner started. I'm going upstairs to change. When she leaves the kitchen, as nicely as I can, I ask Malcolm, you want to help me make something? He and I used to cook together before he went away to school. It was a lot of fun. Maybe cooking with me will start to make him feel better, but he shakes his head. Nah, he says, and crutches out of the kitchen. I open the refrigerator and stare dismally at the food, hoping something interesting will come to me. What am I supposed to make? Then the door pushes open, and I think it's going to be Malcolm, changing his mind, but it's G. He walks over, reaches into the fridge, and grabs a package of chicken. You know, Nene, he says as he gets some seasonings out of the cupboard, it's important to respect your mama, but don't be afraid of using your voice. God gave you a brain for a reason, gave you a mouth too. Don't be afraid to speak up. Easy for him to say. G's not afraid of anything, and I'm afraid of more things than I can count.
Thank you, Lisa. Now I'm just going to have to find out how Nene gets her voice and learns not to be afraid. But first, serious readers, get ready. Acclaimed author Margaret Peterson Haddix is here to read from her latest book, The Strangers, ready to tell us more about the Greystone kids. Hello, Margaret.
Hello, I'm Margaret Peterson Haddix, the author of the Greystone Secret series and many other books. I'm going to read to you from the first book of the Greystone Secret series, which is called The Strangers. I'll be reading the first 3 chapters for those of you who might want to follow along at home. The Strangers is available from any bookstore and many libraries. This book is about 3 kids named Chess, Emma, and Finn Greystone, who find out something very odd and distressing about 3 other kids who, well, let's just say that they have a lot in common with Chess and Emma and Finn. The book is told from the perspective of all 3 kids in alternating chapters, and sometimes they see things very differently. Before the book is over, the kids have to face unexpected dangers and solve bizarre codes and be really, really brave. But they don't know anything about what lies ahead of them when the book begins. So, here is the opening to The Strangers. Chapter 1, Finn. The 3 Greystone kids always raced each other home when they got off the school bus, and Finn always won. It wasn't because he was the fastest. Even he knew that his older brother and sister, Chess and Emma, let him win so he could make a grand entrance. Today he burst into the house calling out, "Mom, we're home! It's time to come and adore us!" Adore had been on his 2nd grade spelling list 2 weeks ago, and it had been a great discovery for him. So that was what it was called, the way he had felt his entire life. Emma, who was in 4th grade, dropped her backpack on the rug beside him and kicked off her red sneakers. They flipped up and landed on top of the backpack. Someday, Finn vowed, he would get Emma to teach him that trick. 23, Emma said. There was no telling what she might have been counting. Finn hoped it was a prediction of how many chocolate chips would be in every cookie Mom was probably baking for them right now for their after-school snack. Finn sniffed. The house did not smell like cookies. Oh well, Mom worked from home designing websites, and sometimes she lost track of time. If today was more of a goldfish crackers and apple slices kind of day, that was okay with Finn. He liked those too. "Mom!" he called again. "Your afternoon break entertainment has arrived." "She's in the kitchen," Chess said, hanging his own backpack on the hook where it belonged. "Can't you hear?" That would mean Finn had to listen for once instead of talking, Emma said, rubbing Finn's head fondly and making his messy brown hair even messier. Finn knew she didn't mean it as an insult. He was pretty sure Emma liked talking as much as he did. Chess was the one everyone called the quiet Greystone. He was in 6th grade and had grown 4 inches in the past year. Now, Finn had to tilt his head way back just to see his brother's face. He also cupped his hand over his ear and pretended to be listening really, really hard. There was a low mumble coming from the kitchen. Maybe a man's voice? "Is Mom watching TV?" Finn asked. "She never does that during the day." The kids all knew their mother's routine. She never listened to anything but classical music while she worked because she said songs with words were too distracting. And when she really didn't want to be disturbed, she worked in a windowless room in the basement. The computer down there didn't even connect to the internet. The 3 Greystone kids called that the boring room. Now, Finn laughed at his older brother. "Are you going to stand around asking stupid questions when you could get your answer just by walking into the kitchen?" Finn asked. "Let's go eat." He dashed toward the kitchen, dodging both Emma's backpack and the family cat, Rocket, lying in the middle of the floor. He yelled, "Mom, can I cut up apples? It's my turn, isn't it?" Mom was standing at the kitchen counter with her back to Finn, but she didn't turn around. She had both hands clenched onto the edge of the counter as if she needed to hold on. Her cell phone lay face down on the floor by her feet. Her laptop sat on the counter in front of her, but it was tilted up so Finn couldn't see what was on the screen. "Mom?" Finn tried again. She still didn't turn around. It was like she didn't even hear him, like she was in a soundproof bubble. This was not like Mom. She had never acted like this before. Then she began to moan. "No, no, 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 no!" Chapter 2. Emma. Emma had had a substitute teacher that day. The sub had dressed all in gray and had gray hair and a gray face and even a gray voice. Somehow, Emma decided, that was possible. And the sub made the entire day so dreary and dull that Emma had started looking for and counting weird things about the day just to keep herself awake. The thing was, if you started looking for weirdness, suddenly everything seemed that way. Wasn't it weird that the pattern of coats hanging up on the classroom hooks went blue, green, red, twice in a row? Wasn't it weird that the sub could have a gray voice? Or was that just normal for her? By the time Emma got off the school bus and began racing toward the house, she'd counted 21 things she considered indisputably weird. To her way of thinking, that actually made the day pretty interesting, and she was excited to tell Mom about the new trick she'd discovered for surviving school. Then she noticed that the porch light was still on, even though Mom usually turned it off when Emma and her brothers left for school. And then, stepping into the house, Emma noticed that the living room curtains were still drawn tight across the windows, and so were the blinds on the bay window at the back of the house. This turned the living room's cheery yellow walls dim and shadowy. It made the whole house feel like a cave or a hideout. 23 weird things in one day. What if that was a normal amount and Emma had just never noticed before? She'd have to count again some other day, or really lots of other days, to know for sure. Finn and Chess started yammering on about Mom and the kitchen and TV. Emma joined in and then rubbed Finn's head because it felt good to do something normal again. Mussing Finn's hair was like petting a dog. You had to do it. Finn had thick, unruly hair with odd cowlicks that sprang up no matter how much Mom smoothed them down. Finn being Finn, he claimed that meant his hair had superpowers. And now Finn was racing off to the kitchen, shouting about apples. Emma looked up at Chess, and they both shrugged and grinned and followed Finn. But when they got to the kitchen, Mom wasn't hugging Finn and reaching out to hug Emma and Chess too. Finn stood in the middle of the kitchen, staring at Mom. Mom stood at the counter with her back to the kids, all her attention focused on her laptop. And the voice coming out of the laptop was saying, "The kidnapped children are in 2nd and 4th and 6th grade." Chapter 3. Chess. "Mom?" Chess said quietly. His mother's shoulders shook, and then, as if she was fighting for control, her whole body went still. Just like before, Chess thought. Of the 3 Greystone kids, only Chess remembered the awful day their father died. Chess had been 4, Emma 2, and Finn only a baby. But even Chess's memories of that day were more like puzzle pieces he kept in a box in his mind, rather than one continuous video. Chess remembered the 2 sad-faced police officers at the door. He remembered the red Matchbox car he'd been holding in his hand when the door opened. He remembered the way Mom's shoulders shook before her back went ramrod straight and she turned around to face Chess and Emma and Finn. Now Mom was reaching for the top part of her laptop, as if she planned to shut it and hide whatever it said. Something made Chess stride quickly across the kitchen and grab her hand to stop her. "Someone was kidnapped?" he said. He caught a glimpse of a few words at the bottom of the screen. 3 kids in Arizona? Was it anyone you know? "No," Mom whispered. Her dark eyes were wide and dazed. The color had drained from her face. Shock, Chess thought. The school nurse had come in and taught a first aid unit to the 6th graders earlier that year, and Chess was proud of himself for remembering the symptoms. It was just a shame he couldn't remember any treatment. But maybe he was feeling a little shocked himself. It was scary that anyone would kidnap anyone. But Arizona was 1,000 miles away, and it wasn't like there would be some crime ring going around kidnapping kids from any family who had a 2nd grader, a 4th grader, and a 6th grader. "Mom, maybe you should sit down," Emma said. Maybe that was one of the treatments for shock. Chess shot his sister a grateful look and took his mother's arm, ready to help ease her toward the kitchen table. "Rocky, Emma, and Finn Castano were last seen leaving their school, Los Perales Elementary, in Mesa," the voice coming out of the laptop speaker said. Finn started cracking up. "Isn't that funny?" he cried. "2 of those kids have the same first names as me and Emma. That's the 3rd Finn I've ever known. Well, not that I actually know this one, but..." He slugged Chess in the arm. "Don't you feel bad that you don't have the same name as some kid who's famous now? And I bet when they find these kids, they'll get all the ice cream they want and all the toys they want, and their parents probably won't make them do homework ever again." But what if nobody ever finds these kids? Chess thought. He wasn't about to say that to Finn. "Yeah, I've never met another kid named Rochester." Chess forced himself to fake a smile at Finn. "Or with the nickname Chess. Oh well." "Maybe you should sue Mom for giving you such a different name," Finn suggested. "Or maybe I should sue for getting such a boring, ordinary name," Emma countered. "Did you know there are 3 other Emmas in 4th grade? And 8 others in the rest of the school?" But Chess tuned out his brother and sister, because Mom lifted one hand and pointed toward the laptop screen. The way she held her hand was like a nightmare, like a Halloween ghost, like someone under a witch's spell in a fairy tale. It was like she could only point, not speak. "We're repeating the information we have about the Castano children," the voice coming from the laptop said. A photo of a friendly-looking, dark-haired boy appeared on the screen. The oldest of the 3 kidnapped siblings, Rochester Charles Castano, who goes by Rocky, just turned 12 last Tuesday. Chess's hearing blanked out temporarily. His middle name was Charles, too. and his 12th birthday had been last Tuesday. How could there be another Rochester Charles born the exact same day as him? And how could that other kid have been kidnapped? And that's the end of Chapter 3. I will tell you just a few more things about the strangers. Finn and Emma also find out that the other Finn and Emma Gustano, have the same middle names and birth dates as them. So all 3 of the Greystone kids are matched exactly to all 3 of the kids who were kidnapped. The Greystone kids are pretty sure there's got to be some connection between them and the kids who were kidnapped. And they're right, there is. But of course, I won't tell you what the connection is. It is much better to read the rest of the book and find out for yourself. So I hope that you will do that. Thank you very much for listening to the opening of The Strangers, the first book in the Greystone Secret series.
Goodness, this is such an exciting series. I can't wait to find out what happens to the Greystone kids. I can't wait to finish that book and check off another great adventure from my Build-A-Bear summer reading list. If you haven't already, make sure you head over to buildabear.com/radio to download your own free reading list and track your progress. Thank you so much for joining me here on Build-A-Bear Radio for another great episode of Storytime. With new authors joining us each week with great stories you won't want to miss out. Bring your coziest blanket and a cuddly furry friend every weekday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, exclusively here on Build-A-Bear Radio. Until next time, I'm your host Victoria, closing this chapter of Storytime. See you soon.